of it, which characteristics are called presentness, pastness, and futurity. Having got the idea of these characteristics, we apply them to other events. Everything simultaneous with the direct perception which I have now is called present, and it is even held that there would be a present if no one had a direct perception at all. In the same way, acts simultaneous with remembered perceptions or anticipated perceptions are held to be past or future, and this again is extended to events to which none of the perceptions I now remember or anticipate are simultaneous. But the origin of our belief in the whole distinction lies in the distinction between perceptions and anticipations or memories of perceptions. A direct perception is present when I have it, and so is what is simultaneous with it. In the first place, this definition involves a circle, for the words "when I have it" can only mean when it is present. But if we left out these words, the definition would be false, for I have many direct presentations which are at different times and which cannot, therefore, all be present except successively. This, however, is the fundamental contradiction of the A-series, which has already been considered. The point I wish to consider here is different. The direct perceptions which I now have are those which now fall within my specious present. Of those which are beyond it, I can only have memory or anticipation. Now the specious present varies in length according to circumstances, and may be different for two people at the same period. The event M may be simultaneous both with X's perception Q and Y's perception R. At a certain moment Q may have ceased to be part of X's specious present. M, therefore, will at that moment be past. But at the same moment R may still be part of Y's specious present, and therefore M will be present at the same moment at which it is past. This is impossible. If, indeed, the A-series was something purely subjective, there would be no difficulty. We could say that M was past for X and present for Y, just as we could say that it was pleasant for X and painful for Y. But we are considering attempts to take time as real, as something which belongs to the reality itself, and not only to our beliefs about it. And this can only be true if the A-series also applies to the reality itself. And if it does this, then at any moment M must be present or past. It cannot be both. The present through which events really pass, therefore, cannot be determined as simultaneous with the specious present. It must have a duration fixed as an ultimate fact. This duration cannot be the same as the duration of all specious presents, since all specious presents have not the same duration. And thus an event may be past when I am experiencing it as present, or present when I am experiencing it as past. The duration of the objective present may be the 1,000th part of a second, or it may be a century, and the accessions of George IV and Edward VII may form part of the same present. What reason can we have to believe in the existence of such a present, which we certainly do not observe to be a present, and which has no relation to what we do observe to be a present? If we escape from these difficulties by taking the view, which has sometimes been held, that the present in the A-series is not a finite duration, but a mere point, separating future from past, we shall find other difficulties as serious. For then the objective time in which events are will be something utterly different from the time in which we perceive them. The time in which we perceive them has a present of varying finite duration, and therefore, with the future and the past, is divided into 3 durations. The objective time has only 2 durations, separated by a present which has nothing but the name in common with the present of experience, since it is not a duration but a point. What is there in our experience which gives us the least reason to believe in such a time as this? And so it would seem that the denial of the reality of time is not so very paradoxical after all. It was called paradoxical because it seemed to contradict our experience so violently, to compel us to treat so much as illusion which appears prima facie to give knowledge of reality. But we now see that our experience of time, centring as it does about the specious present, would be no less illusory if there were a real time in which the realities we experience existed. The specious present of our observations, varying as it does from you to me, cannot correspond to the present of the events observed, and consequently the past and future of our observations could not correspond to the past and future of the events observed. On either hypothesis, whether we take time as real or as unreal, everything is observed in a specious present, but nothing, not even the observations themselves, can ever be in a specious present. And in that case, I do not see that we treat experience as much more illusory when we say that nothing is ever in a present at all, than when we say that everything passes through some entirely different present. Our conclusion, then, is that neither time as a whole nor the A series and B series really exist. But this leaves it possible that the C series does really exist. The A series was rejected for its inconsistency, and its rejection involved the rejection of the B series. But we have found no such contradiction in the C series, and its invalidity does not follow from the invalidity of the A series. It is therefore possible that the realities which we perceived as events in a time series do really form a non-temporal series. It is also possible, so far as we have yet gone, that they do not form such a series, and that they are in reality no more a series than they are temporal. But I think, though I have no room to go into the question here, that the former view, according to which they really do form a C series, is more probable. Should it be true, it will follow that in our perception of these realities as events in time, there will be some truth as well as some error. Through the deceptive form of time, we shall grasp some of their true relations, and if we say that the events M and N are simultaneous, we say that they occupy the same position in the time series. And there will be some truth in this, for the realities, which we perceive as the events M and N, do really occupy the same position in a series, though it is not a temporal series. Again, if we assert that the events M, N, O are all at different times and are in that order, we assert that they occupy different positions in the time series, and that the position of N is between the positions of M and O. And it will be true that the realities which we see as these events will be in a series, though not in a temporal series, and that their position in it will be different, and that the position of the reality which we perceive as the event N will be between the positions of the realities which we perceive as the events M and O. If this view is adopted, the result will so far resemble those reached by Hegel rather than those of Kant. For Hegel regarded the order of time series as a reflection, though a distorted reflection, of something in the real nature of the timeless reality, while Kant does not seem to have contemplated the possibility that anything in the nature of the noumenon should correspond to the time order which appears in the phenomenon. But the question whether such an objective C series does exist must remain for future discussions, and many other questions press upon us which inevitably arise if the reality of time is denied. If there is such a C series, are positions in it simply ultimate facts, or are they determined by the varying amounts in the objects which hold those positions of some quality which is common to all of them? And if so, what is that quality? And is it a greater amount of it which determines things to appear as later, and a lesser amount which determines them to appear as earlier, or is the reverse true? On the solution of these questions, it may be that our hopes and tears for the universe depend on their confirmation or rejection. And again, is the series of appearances in time a series which is infinite or finite in length? And how are we to deal with the appearance itself? If we reduce time and change to appearance, must it not be an appearance which changes and which is in time? And is not time, then, shown to be real after all? This is doubtless a serious question, but I hope to show hereafter that it can be answered in a satisfactory way. End of The Unreality of Time by John McTaggart Ellis McTaggart. Read by Carl Manchester, 2006.